What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. My name is Bladen Kirk, and I'm joined, as always, by my two favorite co-hosts of all time in Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. How are you guys today?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing great. I saw the other day Theo Ash bet against my Charlotte Hornets to lose to the Pacers and ended up paying the price for it.
I paid $50 to be exact, and the bet was Sabonis over 20 combined with the Pacers winning. And I thought Sabonis scoring. Look, Sabonis over 20 was a lock, right, Matt? Like, who Plumlee
against the Hornets, that's a good bet.
Yeah, it's a good bet. And then I figured, the last time they played, obviously the Pacers dismantled, absolutely killed the Hornets. So I'm like, that seems like a winnable game for the Pacers, considering the last game, it seemed to go the Pacers' way. And the odds were so good on it. It was like 50 was the bet to win like $110. So ending up getting like 150 back or something like that. So I was like, that's kind of a lot of money for, in my opinion, a pretty safe bet. And I was in class when this game was happening, and I checked the score and it's halftime, and I'm like, oh, Sabonis has 20 already. They're up by like 20, easy. So I close my computer. Clash finishes up. I check my phone, and first tweet I see is like, wow, what a run by the Hornets, 24-0 to end the third quarter. And I was like, what?
Theo's what's funny? Shaking. I got back from working out at like 6. I knew the Hornets game was on, but I fell asleep, and I wake up at 8. Turn on the game, they're down 20. I'm like, well, this sucks. I don't even get the excitement of like watching the first game, and then they immediately go on a run and immediately take the lead.
It was because you turned the game on. Big time
win. It is. I won us the game. But LaMelo Ball MVP campaign starts today. He's ridiculous. He's so good. He's the Hornets savior. However good I think he's going to be, he always exceeds my expectations. I love him so much.
Also, he was last year's Rookie of the Year, if I remember correctly. He ended up winning that over Ant. And there was a rookie for the Pacers. I did manage to watch a little bit of this game once I got out of class. Yes. Duarte. And I keep talking about how greatness it doesn't take long to recognize it. I think it was like I just turned on the game and he hit some move or some shot, and I was like, whoa, that was somewhat impressive. And then it's the rookie who has 24 points. And he finished with, I think, 27 in his first professional game. And he looked
very strong shooter.
Yeah.
Looks so comfortable. And that's exactly what they expected out of him. He seems like a Pacers player, if that makes sense.
He's just such a Pacers player.
I don't know enough about the history of the Pacers for that to make sense. Just like a Reggie Miller, I guess, maybe good shooter. That's what comes to mind. Or a white power forward who no one ever talks about, and then he just seems to pop up in the All-Star game. That is the other Pacers prototype that I think of.
Pacers. What are we getting into today, Bladen?
Yeah, well, you guys already we're going to hit on the NBA. And that's kind of not my bread and butter, but I'm trying my best. And then we're also going to hit on, a little bit of a preview of Week 7. We're, of course, going to talk about my Cleveland Browns. And, as always, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe. If you're new, review all the great things you've been doing to help grow this podcast on all platforms. And if you haven't yet, make sure you follow @StayHotPod on TikTok for some great content there as well. Closing in on 100,000 followers. We're looking forward to that. And Theo right now, if you're watching on YouTube, is wearing the NFL Ed Sheeran hat that he bought for, what was it, $25, and now it's down to $6.
Add about $10 to that $25.
$35. And that is probably the worst investment he has ever made. But
the Pacers was actually worse. The Pacers were worse.
You guys have the opportunity to make a better investment than Theo Ash. And all you have to do is subscribe to our YouTube and leave a comment with your social media handle, and we will be giving away 10 of these Ed Sheeran hats. Count them on your hands, 10 of these Ed Sheeran hats. Again, all you have to do is be subscribed to the YouTube and then comment with your TikTok, IG, Twitter, and we'll be picking the winners in the coming days. And then we're also going to do a Halloween-themed episode. So the episode that we release next Friday will be our quote-unquote Halloween episode. And we want to do, basically, We want you guys to call in like you happened for the Stay Hot shout outs and, for the Stay Hotline. And this time we want you guys to give scenarios that you are scared of for your team. Right. And that, honestly, I think that can be NFL or NBA. I don't think it has to be strictly NFL, but whatever team you root for, whatever you're scared of, call and leave that scenario, and we're going to either ease or affirm your fears. And that's going to be our Halloween-themed episode. We also might dress up. Have we talked about what we might dress up as for Halloween?
Mm-mm. I have not, but I've got a plan. I've got to execute the plan this weekend and get my costume.
I have a couple of options. There's this Prince costume online that I think I might buy. It's not super expensive. Or at home, I have a Darth Vader costume. So
that'd be pretty funny.
Those are my two options.
Prince or Darth Vader.
The last minute. I'm not much
Prince or Darth Vader, pretty much.
I'm not much of a costume guy personally.
Hey man, it's about the aesthetic.
I hate to be lame like that, but I hate Halloween. It's a terrible holiday.
Oh,
we talked about
I hate how you just pronounce Halloween.
Halloween's an awful holiday.
Oh, dude. Be quiet. It's the second best holiday after Christmas.
Second best holiday over
what?
You have
it's
Halloween
Christmas,
over
Thanksgiving.
Over Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is second best, but Halloween's a good holiday.
Halloween's better than Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving can happen any day. Halloween can't happen any day. I judge holidays strongly by their aesthetic value, and Halloween has a strong one.
What's wrong with Thanksgiving aesthetic?
It's fine, but Halloween is just better. I think I like Halloween more.
Thanksgiving is such a warm holiday. It really is.
It is warm, but it's discount Christmas, really. So Halloween's kind of its own thing.
Discount Christmas. That's tough.
Thanksgiving can be third, but Halloween is superior, sadly, I fear.
I don't know. Halloween's good. I disagree with Matthew that Halloween's terrible, but
dressing up stinks, and there's a bunch of candy, and then I can't stop eating it.
That
just sounds like a you problem. I don't think that's a
there's so much
problem.
candy and we get to dress up. Oh, so sad. Hey, going back to sports, we're on Steph Curry record watch right now as he just dropped 25 points in the first quarter against the Clippers. They are up 50-34 early in the second. Ridiculous.
Jesus.
From the greatest point guard of all time, Stephen Curry.
These jerseys are ridiculous.
Matt had to pause for a second. He was like,
Is he?
This has been a good opening couple games for my NBA agendas. The Heat agenda, the anti-Mavs agenda, the anti-Clippers agenda. We're all good over here at Theo Ash Basketball.
The anti-Mavs agenda
Theo
got
Ash
some
NBA.
pushback when I talked about it on Green Room, they'll look better than this, but what killed me is Porzingis looks the exact same. I don't know if I really expected him to do anything different, but at least through one game, bullied.
Yeah.
Consistently bullied. He just doesn't give it inside for me to care about the shooting.
Right.
Enough. Like it doesn't equal out, and he can't play with the tenacity that you need to when you're that big.
Right before this podcast, I listened to another podcast, and it was Pablo Torre talking about Bob what's his name? Vulgaris, I think, the shadow GM of the Mavericks at The Athletic wrote the article about detailing rifts in the organization. And he went on Pablo Torre's podcast and kind of gave him his side of the story. And I thought that was a very interesting listen and just kind of gave, I think, some good insight on exactly what went wrong there and just kind of a glimpse into the Mavericks organization, which wasn't exactly a glowing picture that he painted. Not quite as bad as the Athletic article seemed to suggest. The rifts were kind of just people not quite understanding his role and thinking, he was just kind of the analytics guy sending emails, making suggestions, and people kind of didn't quite know what he was and thought he was like making decisions. And when he was really just like sending emails at least that's what he said. But they were just kind of seemed like an old school. They rejected his analytical approach, and now that they've got Jason Kidd, who pretty much said we're not going to be shooting threes this year, or like we are not shooting threes. That's BS. That just kind of seems like they're a little bit behind the 8 ball when it comes to the cutting edge.
No, I just watched them get worked. By the Hawks, and part of it was just like bad shooting day. Happens.
Happened to the Suns last night.
But part of it is I just think the Hawks are a straight up better team. The big thing I'm watching for Atlanta is if Cam Reddish starts stays healthy, and B starts shooting a reasonable split, they're going to be ridiculous. Because he's so close. He's so close to being so good. And I think that's the difference with this team. They tried to trade him in the offseason, which makes me feel like maybe they don't trust him very much. But he did look good in the playoffs, and he looked good tonight. He hit his shots tonight, and he had some really nice finishes, some really nice moves. He's so big for a guy who can dribble like he can. So I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, the Hawks are interesting because they're so young, and they've got a bunch of guys who are – there's Trae Young as the superstar, and then they've got kind of a bunch of role players around him. And I think when I made my Eastern Conference standings, I had them slightly low, and that wasn't so much an indictment of the Hawks. It's just that there's a lot of teams in the East that I kind of like. But with how young they are, there's a lot of room for everyone to kind of grow together and get a lot of chemistry. And I think when you have a core that kind of grows together, that's always a good thing. You look at kind of the Spurs of the dynasty, that was all just getting a good core together and just letting them kind of consistently grow. And every couple of years, they're gonna really, get their stuff together. I'm not comparing them to the old Spurs team, but like
with the Hawks, I know what you mean. I'm just excited that last year I feel like a lot of people were writing them off just because they were playing a lot of beat up teams, kind of like the Suns, and it's nice to see them come out and win by what was it, like 46 or like 36?
I don't think it was that.
It wasn't that much, but it was a double. It was a 20 something. It was over 20.
They beat them.
Okay, but like to get a convincing win, like first game, that's really refreshing because I know a lot of people were like, "Man, the Hawks aren't even that good," and then they almost beat the Bucks.
You were at the Denver.
I was
Phoenix game. Denver is just one of those teams that absolutely, no matter what, I will not bet against them.
Yeah,
they just always. It doesn't matter who's on the roster, it seems like. And they're another team that is trying to build a young core and have them develop, kind of like how we were just talking about.
Yeah, and Denver was good. Michael Porter Jr. didn't take a whole lot of shots, but the ones he did were money. He had a really good shooting night. He didn't put up crazy scoring because he didn't take all that many shots.
Nobody looks better when they shoot.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the Michael Porter Jr. hype, too. He just looks so good. He looks so confident. He'll shoot over everybody.
He will shoot over everyone. I was there with my friend who's a Nuggets fan, and he was like, whenever Michael Porter Jr. gets the ball, he's letting that thing fly. But he did have some nice passes. And, the Suns looked... It was just a bad shooting night. Like, there wasn't anything about that performance that made me think, like, oh, boy. There wasn't like Jokic killed him or anything, or anyone really like killed him. It wasn't like they just couldn't get anything going, or everyone was locked up. It was just an uncharacteristically bad shooting night from Devin Booker. He just could not get anything to fall. And Ayton was shooting. He shot 3 threes last night. He came out and he shot 3 threes. He was 1 for 3. And to me, that kind of
mad at the organization.
That kind of seemed to me like him trying to make a little bit of a statement.
He went 1 for 3.
He went 1 for 3. And if you can hit 1 a game, then they have to worry about it, So like, if he can go 1 for 3 every game, you kind of take that from a center because it just like makes them. You have to account for it if you can hit 1 a game. But it was.
Let me ask you guys a question. So I was live on FanDuel's TikTok earlier, and someone told me that Denver was going to win the finals, and that I should call it now and look smart.
If you called it, it's not. If not unreasonable. Come back 100%. It's not like unthinkable. No, they are a contender.
They're real good because I think they'll make the playoffs even if Murray misses. 4/5 of the season, I think that they would still sneak into the playoffs as a
Jokic too good.
Jokic is just too good. And then once Murray comes back,
what was their problem last year?
Injuries. They're
injuries.
They just went into the playoffs. Austin Rivers was playing like real starting minutes, and he was a guy that they signed in like a 10-day contract off the street, and he actually played pretty well. And he was in the game last night. earned another contract with them. But they were just really beat up. And
basically, Murray is I mean, he's fantastic in the playoffs very consistently. And he is like their number one perimeter shot creator. And having him out forced Jokic and the rest of the guys to do too much work. Not only did you have the backups in, but Jokic, which is gassed a lot of those games. So then when they went up against the Suns, you just can't have the energy to do all that on both ends of the court.
Yeah.
One team I want to bring up that I think is not a serious organization at the moment is the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, I'm going to have to log off.
Starting Lauri Markkanen at the 3 is not funny.
It's a little funny. It's a little funny. It's slightly funny.
How much did the Cavs lose by?
It's like
was it bad?
Team. I don't.
They lost by 11 to a playoff team, so it wasn't like a complete disaster.
So the Cavs are making the playoffs, is what I'm hearing.
They only lost by double-digit points. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh my God. It wasn't like totally embarrassing, but it wasn't good. Ja Morant put 37 on their head, so that's nice to see.
Ja Morant breakout season.
That would be awesome. Please. I kind of slandered Ja Morant at the beginning of the playoffs when we first started this podcast, and I said, like, he's a little bit overrated because his shooting is inconsistent. But I do love Ja Morant and watching him play. Dude, and I am strongly rooting for him to be this guy who's an MVP candidate. That would be awesome.
It's so easy to get yourself got like that.
Yeah.
Always the young guys that shoot inconsistent. You're like, maybe he's a little overrated because a lot of times they never start shooting consistently, but when they do.
Ja Morant has the greatest almost highlight reel of all time. That guy, I don't know if I've ever seen a highlight of him like really, well, no, that's not true. But the amount of highlights of him almost posterizing someone, it happens like once every couple weeks where it's like, man, he almost like cleared Kevin Love on that dunk. But it's always almost with him, it seems like. But hopefully one of these seasons we start seeing him like just wreck the league because he has that kind of athleticism. And 37, 6 and 6 is a pretty nice debut.
Now Theo, you were tweeting earlier about... I was just saying, Theo, you were tweeting earlier about the Miami Heat. What happened to the Bucks?
They're a little banged up.
They're a lot banged up.
They did get worked. And the Heat, this is the result of having a lot of vets. Like you get Kyle Lowry, you get PJ Walker, you get Jimmy Butler, you get a lot of intense vets who care about nothing but basketball. You got Bam and Hero, who really looked good tonight, and you get a Hall of Fame caliber head coach, and you get a very aggressive team that has a ton of reps in their career, and they are capable of playing some really beautiful basketball. They are really capable. They've seen every scenario before. When in transition and on defense, they were really playing hard and attacking aggressively, especially in transition. I mean, they were just unstoppable. And it's like these guys, no one on that team knows how to play without their foot 100% on the gas. Butler, Lowry, they will do everything they can. And tonight they really wanted to come out and make a statement. And tonight they did, even against a banged up Bucks team. I don't care if this was a fully operational Bucks team. I don't care if this is an all-star team. They were winning tonight. They were amazing.
Yeah, back to the Mobley stuff. He did look very nice. So not a complete joke for the Cavs. But starting Lauri Markkanen, paying Lauri Markkanen $64 million was their first mistake. But
yeah, I was really just trying to stop hearing Matt talk mad trash about the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I was saying something nice and you didn't give me the chance. The Heat are good though. Adding a playmaker like Kyle Lowry is always going to be underrated. It's always going to help a team more than people think. Happened last year with Chris Paul. Happened this year with Lowry. Although I don't know if that's a fair game for Milwaukee. You also don't win by 40 points on accident.
Yes.
That much I can tell you. And this is what kills me. If you have 25 in the first quarter, you got to start shooting the ball like nuts. Everyone's like, oh, I commend the Warriors for not going for the records. You know what I mean? It'll be like, oh, Clay will have like 60 points in 3 quarters. He'll take them out. That sucks. That's so stupid.
Beat the record.
Rest him the next entire game. Go for the record.
Yes.
If you want to get some rest, don't do it when they're midway through a record set. Like, We could have seen Clay have one of the highest scoring games of all time. I get you want to win, but you're up 20. Dude, it's the regular season. You're already top 10 all time. Go for it. Go for $1 trillion. That's way more fun.
I agree.
He's taken 2 shots this quarter.
Pathetic. We
sad.
We had that podcast, the NBA Storytime podcast that you and me were on, Matt, and we talked about how padding your stats is a good thing.
You get no bonus points. You get no brownie points from me for not padding your stats.
Yes.
You're not high and mighty. You're not more righteous than everyone else. You just don't get to be in the record books.
Yeah.
I hope you're happy with yourself. In 20 years, you're going to look back and you're going to feel bad, and you should.
It's like Russell Westbrook with the triple doubles. Like, let him have his triple doubles.
If they just said, like, Curry go out there and shoot threes every possession, he could have the record, like, right now. Any game. Just wait for him to get a hot start and then be like, just go for it, dude.
25
and he did it.
I mean, how many points did Kobe have in his 81-point game? It wasn't in the first half. It wasn't that much. So it's like, if you're already at 25, like, I think Kobe had like maybe 30 or something in the 30s at halftime. And then he just went crazy in the second half. So you're already ahead of the pace. And then you just have to have that Kobe second half. And you know, which is easier said than done.
Because Kobe will take a shot every possession.
Yes.
You want him to. He'll
take Kobe will take a shot every possession if you don't want him to.
Yes.
When do you not want Kobe to take a shot?
For it, in my book.
Yeah. No, and he has the record. No one cares about Kobe's mentality is something that everyone commends and everyone like looks at as like the gold standard for an athlete is like be like Kobe. But also everyone also commends when you don't go for the record and you just sit out and
what's the fun in that? Or like Westbrook stat padding's like, oh, he needs 1 rebound, they're up 25. Like, yeah, go get the rebound. What are we talking about? Like, of course that's what you do. Who would not do that? Nobody. No,
everyone would do that.
Oh,
everyone would do that.
They're not supposed to care about their stats, but you do. Like, you know, in your head, it's impossible not to count your own stats.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Anyway.
Everyone counts that. I just realized that Curry was 9 for 9 in the first quarter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sabonis should have gone for the record. Sabonis versus the Hornets. They should have kept him in.
Dude, those games against the 76ers, when we play them and we have to play Embiid, our interior defense is so bad. It's like Mason Plumlee doing his best. And then
76ers, when you play the Hornets, do not bench Embiid. I know that his conditioning is bad already, but it'll be worth it.
Have like 25 against us.
Okay. Go for the career high.
See, now the Warriors are only up 9 points. You know why?
Weren't they up like 20?
Well, he's 1 for 4 this quarter now. This is extremely sad.
Well, he's only taken 4 shots.
Got to bump those numbers up.
Yeah, if he takes 20 shots this quarter, like, you know, that's a different story,
anyway,
you know?
That's very true. The other big narrative that I feel like we got to touch on, Russell Westbrook, not good.
Not good.
He will be better.
He will be better. And there's that meme of like the calendar, and like the first part of the calendar is this is the worst player of all time. And then there's the All-Star break. And then after that, it's like this is the best player of all time. And then it's the playoffs, and it's just the withered Wojak of like with his eyes all black and like their soul is gone. And that's Westbrook in the playoffs. That is a pattern in Westbrook's career that, he's very inconsistent shooting wise. And one bad night is not exactly off brand for Westbrook. And there'll probably be multiple bad nights for Westbrook efficiency wise, but he's not always going to be this bad and such a net negative.
No, you saw what you wanted to out of LeBron and Anthony Davis. They did their thing. But Westbrook's just got to get a little bit more used to playing with those guys. I want to see more off-ball action of him cutting in. But a lot of that's also going to come down to you can't play DeAndre Jordan then. DeAndre Jordan, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook is tough spacing. Even though Anthony Davis is not a bad shooter. He shot 26% from 3 last year. You really can't ignore that. So I feel like they're wasting their time with some of those lineups.
Yeah.
They started Jordan and then he barely played the rest of the game. So we knew going into this season that it was going to take the time or some time for the Lakers to figure it out. We knew that they had more guys than they could actually play, and that some of those guys will probably not be in the rotation come playoff time. So I'm not surprised that they looked like a team that was extremely talented playing in their first game together where nobody's played with each other much. And that's what I thought they looked like. I'm more happy that Anthony Davis looked good. I was worried.
Yeah, and LeBron.
The injury in last year. Yeah.
His jump shooting was crazy.
LeBron looked so good. I did watch that game. LeBron looked so good.
It'll be interesting to kind of keep track of Westbrook and Buddy Hield, who was allegedly the organization was going to go after Hield, and then LeBron kind of made the executive decision, maybe like go get Westbrook instead. At least that's not exactly how it went down, but from my understanding, that's kind of how it went down. And Buddy Hield had 17 points last night. The Kings upset the Trailblazers. They looked really good. Harrison Barnes had a big game, which is a name I haven't heard have a big game in a while. De'Aaron Fox poured in 27 and Hield in a small
You're speaking my language, Theo. De'Aaron Fox.
Hield's just a lights out shooter, and he poured in 17 as well. And that's kind of the role that the Lakers kind of lack a little bit, and Hield would maybe be a perfect fit there. So I think it'll be interesting. Maybe LeBron wanted to play with Westbrook instead of making the less flashy deal to get Hield. And I feel like that may be a little bit of a mistake on Led GM's part there, because he always is kind of dictating the lineups.
All I'm saying is if the Lakers had De'Aaron Fox right now, I guarantee them they would. I guarantee they'd win the finals.
All right.
I'd bet everything.
You guys want to move on to
speaking of teams making trades, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, Mr. Allegations is being reported to have trade talks with Miami in a potential what could be a three-way or a three-team trade involving Washington. I'm not entirely sure how that would work out, but
this has been reported for a long time, and I'm trying to think.
I think they just keep stirring shit up, and then it never actually happens.
Well, Miami has shown interest in Watson before.
I'm sure they have, but is this really going to happen, or is this the Texans stirring things up towards the deadline to get teams active?
Could be.
I'm not. That's what I think it is. Because why would I'm sorry, but why would the Dolphins all of a sudden be like, well, we're 1-5, we need to make a move right this second, right now, for Watson, unless Flores thinks he's fired, which I guess could be it.
That could be it. The thing that gives me the thing that makes me think it's true is John McClain reported it. And John McClain is legit when it comes to the Texans beat. Like, he is not some NFL talking head. Like, this guy is plugged into the Texans. And I've followed him for a long time. And he's someone that I trust to give good information, especially when it is not the first time that these multiple sources from the beat reporters everywhere have said, keep an eye on Miami for Watson. They're close. These talks are happening. And when you see all of those things, it's talks are probably happening. And McClain was kind of the big one where it's okay, someone super plugged into the Texans is now reporting this. There's another report that Washington's involved. That kind of gave me as a sports journalist, I gotta trust with my fellow as a sports journalism major here at ASU.
As an aspiring sports journalist,
I've got to trust my sports journalist folks out there.
If Washington has a quarterback room of Heineke, Allen, Tua, and Fitzpatrick,
we assume Tua is going to Washington.
Whatever they get, they deserve, man. I can't lie. Elon's killing me right now.
The old adage is if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. And what if you have 4? But I don't know how much sense this makes for Miami. Trading a bunch of first-round picks for a guy who may be in jail next year is never a good strategy. In my opinion, that's something I would stay away from.
I think my analysis is that it would take so much to trade for Watson that your team has to be complete.
Yes.
You have to be you have to be one quarterback away from being a contending team, or you will probably regret it.
Honestly, you can't. I don't even know if it's good enough to be that. You have to be so astronomically good that trading away assets leaves you one quarterback away from being a championship team.
Yeah, I guess that's a way to look at it. like if Denver did it, you could say, well, they have the offensive line, they have weapons, they have backs. You like the defense, okay. With Miami, they're kind of shaky right now, and if you trade for Watson and the team isn't like, you still have to figure out the offensive line. There's still problems on the defense, and you just traded away a bunch of assets and maybe some good players too to get that done. So you could be so far from it. Or like the Eagles.
No,
the Eagles are terrible right now. Well, they're not putting all the chips in at the moment. Like they're rebuilding.
Here's the question:
So
is Miami better? Like, take Tua out of the equation, right? Take Watson out of the equation. Is Miami roster wise better than the Texans were last year? Better than the Texans roster was last year?
It's maybe
right now. Miami. Right now.
I think the weapons. I mean, Fuller was the best wide receiver on the Texans. Well, Cooks was there.
Brandon Cooks.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'd still rather have Miami.
The defense was brutal in Houston last year. They had no good play. They had no good players, like zero on the defense last year. And Miami at least has some good talent there.
Even if they're not always playing.
Even if they're not always playing consistently. And like I said, you could do a lot worse than Miami's weapons, like Gesicki and Waddle. Yeah. And Fuller and Devontae Parker, like that's not the wide receiving core that is bad enough.
If they used him, Myles Gaskin,
the skill position players are nowhere near make excuses level. Now the offensive line is, and Deshaun Watson is a guy who takes a lot of sacks anyway, and behind that offensive line, it's like, but they made the playoffs with a horrible offensive line and Watson and decent weapons. So I don't know. It's Watson, a great quarterback, can make your team a playoff team if your roster is any good at all. But
I think sticking Watson behind that offensive line,
it doesn't make them a Super Bowl contender, and it probably wouldn't. It'd be very hard to make that team into a Super Bowl contender when you use so many resources to get him.
But here's the thing.
It may not even happen.
We're looking at it differently than maybe Miami is. Because if I'm Miami, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm 1-5 right now.
Right.
With this move, I don't need to be a contender. I need to have a job next year. Would this move leave me a job next year? And if the answer is yes, then they're probably going to make it, even if long-term it puts them in a position where they can't seriously contend.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of other things at play because if you put 1-5, I don't care who you are, your job's at stake immediately. And they should be 0-6, really. They got lucky by the skin of their teeth to win that New England game. Like, we're one of the worst teams in football this year, so
it's out of nowhere too. I mean, I didn't think they were going to be fantastic, but I didn't expect them to be this bad.
Yeah, neither did I. I mean, especially once Xavier Howard came back, like that seemed like, okay, Tua will maybe be fine. Like I thought he was maybe the type of guy who is not in any way a game changer, but with Waddle and all these wide receivers, I'm like, he can hit guys who should be open at least. And I don't know. He's not the biggest problem in Miami right now. The offensive line is, but
he's also certainly not the biggest solution.
He's certainly not been a positive or a plus in any way. So, but who knows? This isn't even getting to the allegations, and who knows if this move will even happen. But
my thought process is there's such a big question mark about that type of stuff. On top of the fact that like I don't know how many teams are even realistically considering him, right?
Washington.
I mean, if Denver's out, Washington maybe would. You know, there's so few teams. They'd rather wait to the offseason when you maybe know a little bit more about the allegations and you have more teams that they don't want to have their quarterback that they currently have. So you have more people in on it. That's what I would do.
Yeah. This, to me, if it's the three-way team, the trade between Washington, Miami, and Houston, this to me seems like three bad organizations doing desperate things so the people involved can keep their jobs. That's to me what this seems. None of this seems like really good moves to build a contender. This all just seems like desperate people doing desperate things to maybe survive in the league a little bit longer. That to me is what it seems like.
I think for what I've realized for the Panthers, and I guess would be for Washington too with Tua, is that you probably don't get a try number 3 on a quarterback. You get maybe 2 chances at figuring that out. And then if you don't, you didn't.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of these Washington going for Tua would be sort of I hope this works out because I need it to.
It's also I see it a little bit because this is not a very strong quarterback class. This is not a very, like, if you need a quarterback and this is the draft class.
There's one guy.
I know you're going to talk about Matt Corral, but still,
there's another guy.
There's Ritter. I get, yeah, there's some good guys, but like, I mean, last year there were 5 that you hope are like guys that will be game-changing franchise quarterbacks. This year, there's like Ritter and Corral, and I guess Malik Willis, but none of them really. I mean, Trevor Lawrence and Fields would be so far quarterback 1 in this class. It's ridiculous how far in front they would be.
I don't know, man. I think you're sleeping on Matt Corral a little bit.
I have not. Yeah, yes, maybe I am, but I'm willing to predict that it's not quite the barrage of quarterbacks.
You're right. It's not a strong.
So that's another thing where it's like, and like last year was so ridiculous, and it was so ridiculous last year because like Stafford was rumored to be on the move, and like Rodgers, and there were so many quarterbacks in the draft class. Like last year was such a huge, like if you needed a quarterback, last year was the time to get one. Now it's kind of like, oh boy, there's like kind of one guy.
Yeah, there were endless amount of quarterbacks, and Panthers ended up with Sam Darnold.
Got Sam Darnold.
Well, to be fair,
Stafford like on the move last year and did not work out.
Well, I heard that they were like pretty much locked up Stafford, and then like at the last minute it fell through. That was
it fell through because Stafford's like, I don't want to go there, and in a way that's the Panthers' fault.
Stafford spoke for 1 second with Sean McVay, and he was like, hold on a second. Do I really want to go to Carolina?
Stafford did that. When I saw that news, it hurt my heart, but I don't blame him.
Dude's like, I get to go play for Sean McVay.
Unfortunately, he was good
in LA with the Rams. Yes,
I'm surprised he wanted to be in LA so bad. He's kind of like a country boy. Did you see his wedding? It was like on a truck. I'm surprised he wanted to be in LA if he got to dictate that. Anyway,
LA is what you make it, man. It's LA.
Week 7.
Yes.
Game 1 in the books. Cleveland Browns win.
Yeah.
You already know, man.
Johnson. What did he have? 140 something rushing yards.
I raise a toast to Dearness Johnson with my Cleveland Browns mug.
You know, the Browns winning this game without Baker is going to create a lot of narratives. Somewhat undeserved because...
And you are going to be the one to create...
No, I'm not going to be the one because here's what I'll say. Case Keenum was begging to throw a pick anytime he threw the ball downfield. There were a couple times tonight that were like, whoa.
The Odell pass where he was like... Odell had like 5 yards of separation downfield, wide open, should have been a touchdown. Baker would have made that throw. I know people would talk about, Baker, misses Odell all the time. Baker's made that throw before, Theo. Don't look at me like that. I've seen Baker make that.
As well.
I just know that Odell got
Baker's
hurt
made
last
that
year.
Exact throw. Baker has made that exact throw. Rolling left.
It was against Cincinnati. It was against Cincinnati on William Jackson when he bit on the double move.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this.
Same play to a T. In Case Keenum underthrew it by a mile.
I will say
had Justin Simmons been there a second faster, it was a pick.
I'm watching all 22 of the last Browns game, the one versus good look by me. I can't remember who it's even against. The Cardinals. And there are 2 plays in a row where Baker is looking. It's like one was a third down. He's looking at Odell running a slant. It's there. And he double clutches and he takes a sack, I think, or it's incomplete. No, he rolls out. He bailed on the open first down, rolled out and picked up like a gain of 1. And then they went for it on 4th down, and the guy is not wide open, but he's NFL open. The leverage is in his favor. It's 4th down, so you have nothing to lose. And he looks at it and he freezes and he takes a sack on 4th down. He didn't want to make the throw. So I do have those clips in my computer right now, and I am going to push the anti-Baker narrative, but he is better than Case Keenum.
Yeah, he's significantly better.
There's a line between better than Case Keenum and pay him $50 million a year.
I think that's yes.
Falls in that.
The number for Baker keeps getting higher and higher, like 35, 40. Now it's 50. I don't think that the Browns would consider paying him over 40 at this point. I really don't think that is as big of a thing as people think it is. I think that he still is someone who may get paid 35.
I'm not going to push an anti-Baker.
We've talked about this so much.
I'm not pushing that narrative unless the Browns miss the playoffs badly, and it's like obviously.
Can I give my Browns hot take? My Browns prediction. Neither Odell or Jarvis Landry should be on the team next year, and I don't think they will. They'd save $30 million by dumping those two. And it's just Odell just has not worked with the Browns. I think he's a talented player. It's not an Odell problem, but you're looking at the team, the structure of the team. I don't think he's worth $15 million when you're up against the cap, and it's the difference between keeping a guy like Wyatt Teller or not.
Yeah,
and then Jarvis Landry is $15 million, and I just don't think he's that talented of a receiver at this point in his career.
He's not.
He's a culture guy, so I think it might be tough for them, but I think it'd be the right move.
Landry ran a 4.7 40 time during his combine. His 40 time now has got to. Yeah, he's slow as shit. All right, and now it's got to be like 5.1. Yes, he ran a 4.7. He's got to run like a 4.1 now. No, he's
that reminds me.
I can't talk because I run like a 4.9, but like, come on, you're in the NFL.
Okay. But
that reminds me of there used to be a veteran combine. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do remember this.
Combine.
There was that running back.
They had to shut it down because
who is the running
run the 40s fast enough to get picked up.
There was some poor running back. He used to play for the Bears. I can't remember his name, and he ran the 40, and it was like a 5.4 or something, and he was like crying after it was done because he knew that I was like, no one was ever going to pick him up after that. And that's the last I've heard.
That's brutal.
I've never.
I got to go find this guy's name now.
Oh, who was it? I know he played for the Bears. Poor guy. And
I was thinking of the exact same guy.
I totally forgot about that. Other takes. I think that the Broncos maybe should have put in Drew Lock tonight. I would have done that if I was the coach because it's such a sluggish offense and it's a team in general. Like, I'm sorry, everyone, for selling everyone on the Broncos and telling them to jump off the Chargers bandwagon. I apologize. That's on me. But, man, it's just so difficult to watch them try to.
Who does Denver play next week?
I do not know.
Because I'm thinking like, okay, you're struggling against the Browns, but maybe you don't want to put Drew Lock in because it's like, okay, do we really want to throw Drew Lock in against like Myles Garrett? Do we really want to do that? That's not something
that goes through their mind. Really. They play Washington next week, but like when they got in the 10-0 hole, it was like they need some big plays here, and they did come back and make it somewhat close. So I guess.
Well, that's the thing that's the thing I was talking about. Like, I thought I tweeted this out, but maybe I forgot to. The one thing that was very obvious and was like, Denver's not going to win this game because they are the only team that hasn't been able to take advantage of the fact that the Browns just give up big plays defensively. Yeah. Every time they've lost games, it's been because teams have been able to exploit them downfield, and they just they tried it like one time and they threw a pick.
Yeah. No, there was definitely like when you were in an 0-10 hole, I, as a coach, would have put in Drew Lock in that moment just because I feel like he's the guy that the offense looked so sluggish and they just could not hit big plays down the field. Like, you need a little bit of shot in the arm, not even just for this game, but going forward, because all the vibes in Denver are downward trend. They need some sort of
terrible vibes.
They have terrible vibes. They need some good vibes. Drew Lock would give them
vibe check.
Drew Lock would at least, I think, invigorate someone because his personality is kind of like that, where he's just kind of a swaggy dude. They need some swag. They have no swag right now. They need to play with some swagger. They need to play with some swagger.
No sauce. No juice.
They don't have any of that.
I'm looking at the NFL schedule. This week sucks.
Yeah, it's not great.
We were talking about our locks earlier, and we're all like, what's everyone's locks this week? And we just like, these four teams. what was it? The Rams, the Bucks, the Cardinals, and the Packers. We're just like, yep, those are all locks, like unanimously.
Yeah. I mean, Bengals, Ravens should be interesting. At least both those teams they both have good records right now. But
here's the thing. I asked Zach how he feels about that game. My roommate, our friend from high school, and he's like, "Listen, man, the Ravens have our number. Every time we play Baltimore, Lamar just puts us in a body bag. Like even like that Lamar's like most famous highlight being in the NFL is him putting the Bengals in a blender. Like that's literally his most famous highlight.
I will say that I'm interested in the Colts. All right. They're playing the 49ers. And then after that, they play the Titans, the Jets, and the Jaguars. All right. Which I think are all winnable. The Titans will be tough. But like if they can win against the 49ers and then the Titans could maybe be kind of a toss-up, that's a winnable game. Yeah. And then you get the Jets and Jaguars, which I think you can consider free wins. If they can upset the 49ers, their season is somewhat salvageable, I think. But if they lose,
I think the Colts are better than their record.
Tough.
The Colts are better than their record. I'm like, they are not a 1-4 team at all.
They're what, 2-4 now?
They're 2-4, and they're better than that. I'm like,
yeah, they're a tough team, and Wentz is playing some good football right now, and it's going to be the DeForest Buckner revenge game. And really, I think it's a test for the 49ers to see if they'll kind of make the playoffs or not. Because if they lose this game, they drop to 2-4. And
with a brutal schedule.
And it's like, that's a team that everyone was kind of anticipating a bounce back year from, except for you, Bladen. And that was a team that
49ers fans gave me hell, man. But listen, and this is what I said with the Browns. You know, if we're going to talk about like, oh, we're just so injured and once we get healthy, we'll be fine. No, we've talked about this before, about how you have control over your injuries. And if you're an injury prone team, you're an injury prone team. Once you've kind of solidified that is your MO, right? There's no really changing that at that point. You had your chance.
You don't have complete control over it, but you have some control over it.
Once you have injury prone players, you've lost control. But when you have players who are healthy and then they start getting hurt, that's on you. And as an organization, you have to do a better job of keeping healthy players healthy. That is part of your responsibility as an organization. And if you fail to do that, I can't help you.
Yes, I do think that medical staffs do have a responsibility to keep their players healthy. That is their job. So yes, you do have that responsibility.
I'm just saying. You can't cut the 49ers slack for being injured all the time. That's partly their fault.
Well, and we said this before. You know, a team that goes out and takes the chance on a guy like who's the corner, Jason Verrett, for example. Yep. Is going to be more injured.
Yeah.
If you're rolling the dice on guys like that, you're going to end up losing some of those dice rolls.
Yeah.
And you can't complain when you end up losing those, knowing that it's a risk going into the season.
Yeah. So that's, I think, a game that in a pretty brutal NFL schedule that doesn't have a lot of interesting games. Colts versus 49ers, I think, is kind of low key going to be a sort of a playoff game where I'm kind of ready to write off the loser, but the winner still has some life at this point. And I mean, something crazy could always happen, but once you get into week 7, it's time to like really like see who's serious and who's not. It's tough to come back from being 2-5 or something.
Yeah. Theo, you're right. There is not a lot of interesting games. It's like the Rams play Detroit. And as much as I want to be like, man, Detroit's been giving some teams some trouble.
So here's an interesting question. Of all the potential blowouts, what do you think is the most likely to not happen? And by those, I'm going to say the Packers. Cardinals game, the Cardinals versus Texans. 1 second. Let me get the schedule in front of me. It's Packers versus Washington is one of our locks.
Yes. I think Washington might. I don't know. I just feel like the Packers sometimes just like
come out
look
flat.
Questionable. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They come out flat sometimes, and that's just, and that could just easily happen. I know they're 5-1, and they have Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, but like it could just not happen, and that would just be a very Packers thing.
One more thing that I'm interested in seeing is the rematch between the Jets and the Patriots. And coming off a bye, Zach Wilson needs to play a lot better coming off this bye and playing through the second half of the season, because it's been a brutal start for him. And the most brutal game was against these New England Patriots. So can he come out after the bye, after a week of work, after all this film study on a team that they've played before? You know, there's really no excuse to look that bad again. And I'm sure he won't look quite that bad again, but can he not just look not bad, but look good coming off the bye, playing a team he has film on? Can they look better coming off the bye? That's an interesting storyline.
I'm locking
and you're betting no.
Yeah, like, listen, man. Zach Wilson, anytime he's like troubled, just looks bad. He looks really bad. And the Patriots are known to give quarterbacks like him trouble.
Yeah, it'll be
maybe
interesting.
Maybe he doesn't look as bad, but like, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't look as bad, but like what Bill Belichick can do defensively is just it's too much. And their O-line's so bad, and they really don't have that many weapons for him to go to. So it's like if he can't find Corey Davis, there's just not going to be a whole lot for him at all.
When is the Lions' next potential win? They deserve one. And this is making me sick.
No, they have winnable games from their schedule.
I thought, here's one thing that we could talk about. I thought it was very interesting from Dan Campbell, and this is something I have not seen very often, is him just kind of taking Jared Goff and saying, you need to play. Jared Goff has not played good enough for us to win. He needs to step it up. He went on record in the press conference and said, Jared Goff needs to do better. He's been bad. He needs to step it up. I can't remember the exact words that he used, but he basically like came out and basically called out Jared Goff and said he's been playing terribly. So that was a very interesting strategy from a coaching standpoint, because a lot of the time is like you have to be, you know, you're not going to come out and say those things publicly. So that's an interesting choice for him to come out and do. And Dan Campbell has made several interesting choices in his press conferences. So it'll be interesting to see maybe how Jared Goff responds to that. That might be, and it's a rematch. Rams versus Lions, Lions versus Rams, Goff and Stafford. That's another interesting storyline, I think, in a week full of not a whole lot of interesting storylines. And also, we got to talk about Titans versus Chiefs. That is a good game.
Well, first things first, the Lions' next win is the Eagles.
Maybe.
That's their next winnable game. That's in 2 weeks. So they play the Rams this week. Next week, they have the Eagles.
And Matt, what did you want to say?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying that I liked the strategy. I think it's good. I think bullshitting like a pro athlete that they're like going up and camp, well, you know, blah, blah, like no one knows that. Goff isn't stupid. He knows he's not playing good. Yeah. Going up there and being like, yeah, he needs to play better, I feel like is more genuine than, you know, it's like the opposite of, you know how when Ben Simmons would make like a free throw, Philadelphia fans would cheer like crazy.
Yes.
But it wasn't really like genuine. I feel like this is the opposite, where it's like being honest and being forward and not like sugarcoating it to somebody who's making, I mean, a ton of money and knows what's up. It just feels like it's more genuine. And I don't think Goff would be upset about it.
Here's an antidote. You know, I've had some friends who have been broken up with recently, and I don't know if I hope they don't listen to this, but the messages they've received, you can kind of tell when, like, if the message is legit or the message is not legit, like if they're actually saying the reason why, or they're just kind of making a PR move, or like saying what they think the other person wants to hear, when in reality, the reason is something like that doesn't maybe make them seem like a great person. That's kind of what this reminds me of, is like, are you going to be legit and like actually tell you what's on your mind, or are you just going to try to like coddle them? And it's a little bit like a breakup. I don't know.
Now you got me thinking of like any of my relationships were ended in like PR moves.
Man, have you ever had a relationship that has ended with a PR, just a PR statement? Like, I'm
thinking maybe yes.
I need to work on myself. This isn't about you. There's nothing that you did wrong. This is all about me. it's a PR's made.
Bladen, we can't talk about it, but the answer for you is definitely yes.
Which one are we talking about? Which one are we talking about?
You got broke up with via PR
1, 2, or 3.
statement.
1, 2, or 3. Not number 3 for sure. I know for a fact that wasn't a PR move.
Oh, 2.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah. No, you're right.
All-time PR.
Hall of Fame PR move.
Now I want to know what this is, but I'm just saying that
we'll talk after this, Theo.
But people, you can tell when it's a PR move and when it's genuine, and it's just better, I think, to just like rip the Band-Aid off and be like, tell me what it really is.
I think being genuine is better than
here's the thing. I think you have two options.
Will respect it. Everybody else will.
Yeah.
I think you have two options as a coach, right? You either take the Bill Belichick approach, where you basically just say nothing, right? And then you go into the locker room and you talk to your players instead of like talking nice to about your players in the press conference and then going and bashing them personally, right? Your Belichick's just like, I'm not going to say anything. I'll deal with my guys personally, right? Or you do the Dan Campbell approach where you just keep it 1,000 with everyone, right? And I think those are the two best ways to go about it.
Doing it to the media is what could maybe rubs like, oh, you're going to broadcast it to everyone. Like, tell it to me, tell it to my face, but maybe don't broadcast it. I could see maybe that being a thing. But, I always appreciate coaches, like, press conferences are so full of nothing and incentivized lying that it is nice when a coach, like, says what he really thinks. So I appreciate it. You would maybe think, everyone can kind of respect it and be like, okay, he's not wrong. So we'll see. But I do want to get into the Chiefs and Titans game and talk a little bit about maybe Derrick Henry going against a soft, let's say, Chiefs defense. That should be interesting.
Theo, we just talked about not sugarcoating it. Don't sugarcoat it. The Chiefs defense sucks. Come on.
Fair enough.
No, but you're right. Derrick Henry might just run all over them. And this is another game where it's like low-key a playoff game, statement game type deal. Right. And people are talking about MVP. Derrick Henry's making a strong case right now.
He is making a strong case for an award. I do think that the most valuable quarterback is always most valuable than the most valuable running back. We see it tonight.
Right, Chubb is out. I'm just saying, if like,
I know it's lame. I know it's lame, but it's
Derrick
true.
Henry has like what's he on pace for right now? Yards wise,
1 trillion,
2,200 something yards and 20 something touchdowns.
If he has 2,200 yards and 20 touchdowns, you're telling me he won't win MVP?
The thing is, well, I bet on him winning Offensive Player of the Year a while ago, and I'll win it's a really good bet. It was 20 to win 180, and it's a lock. But the thing that has occurred to me is if he wins MVP, will my bet lose? So I've got to push the anti-MVP narrative and keep him at Offensive Player of the Year so I get my $100. Yeah, I got to keep him at Offensive Player of the Year. I'm very
anti-running back MVP. You know this, but if he has 2,200 yards and 20 touchdowns.
Player of the Year is kind of like the runner-up award almost, or a lot of times it goes to a non-quarterback.
I'm pretty sure Mahomes
he did win it both times. But it should be the runner-up award. It should be the runner-up. If you're an MVP, you should not also win Offensive Player of the Year. And what should really happen is my idea on how you should approach awards is do Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and then just get rid of MVP and call it the Bart Starr Award or something, the Star Award, and treat it like a Cy Young Award.
Give it the best quarterback.
And just give it to the best quarterback. So Offensive Player of the Year. And it's pretty much the same thing. It's just the branding is a little bit different. And I feel like that would be a little bit more honest to what it actually is, because MVP
I would
is
like to
always
see
it.
I would like to see defensive MVP.
Lawrence Taylor did it way back.
That's what I'm saying.
JJ Watt made a very serious case a couple years ago when he was the best defensive player of the year, and he caught 6 touchdowns. He scored 6 touchdowns or something that year. He maybe deserves some votes because I think it should just be most outstanding player, and that would be more fun when you get Lamar, Kyler, Henry. I don't know who's even leading the league.
Because Henry deserves
more fun. That's true for the NBA too.
Yes, the branding of value and outstanding is so much. Outstanding is so much better because the year that Russell Westbrook averaged a triple double, Like if the branding was just like most outstanding season instead of like creating the most value, like I mean, he won MVP, but it would have been like easy answer. That's the most outstanding season.
Okay, but here's the thing, right? If we're just like MVP goes to the most valuable player, then like how many years in the NBA does LeBron James win MVP?
A lot of years.
Or I guess like the real question is like how many years doesn't he win it? Right?
Yeah,
like,
he wins it like every year from like maybe 2007 to like 2000 and
they'd get tired of voting.
They would get tired.
They wouldn't let him win that much, but he would.
But like that's the like LeBron James is the most valuable player of the last decade. So it's like you can't necessarily just brand it strictly on value because then like that someone like that wins it every single year.
Yeah.
You know, my thought process recently with awards, I had somebody comment like, this is why MVPs don't matter or whatever. I think you can't win one by accident. Like if you won one, you deserved one. Like you played at an MVP level if you won an MVP. But you can deserve one and not get one.
Yeah. This is why I always like I think the best way to compare people throughout eras is like all pro or first team all NBA or all star, because like no matter the stats get adjusted, the stats are inflated, whatever, stats are all different. You know, skill is always kind of changing a little bit. That's not totally like genuine because it's like, is Kyrie like one of the greatest players of all time? Is he better than like legends from the past? Or like, is any average player from now better than legends of the past? So you can't quite use skill. You can't quite use stats. But I think like when you look at a trophy case and you can be like, oh, this guy's got 8 first team all pros and MVP and, you know, all this stuff versus this guy who has 4 first team all pros and whatever, no MVP. Like, I feel like accolades are the most consistent through the eras. So I think it is important.
Gotta be careful throwing around the word accolade, individual accolades. Because you say accolades, someone's gonna be like, well, Michael Jordan has 6 rings.
Yeah, I mean, accolades in general. Like, what is your resume? Like, if you were to turn in a resume, like it's the same with any job. Like, if you were to turn in your resume, like, what have you done? You would be like, I've made the All-Star game 10 times, and it's like reading that piece of paper, like of all these things. It's not just stats. I think the accolades are really, really important when you're comparing things all the time. So it's very important to get them right. Anyway, that's not at all Chiefs versus Titans. That's like a whole sidebar.
We didn't talk about Chiefs versus Titans very much, other than saying the Chiefs defense was bad and Derrick Henry is good.
Yeah.
But
that might be that it comes down to. So
he might run for a lot of yards.
But
But I mean, is the Titans defense, I was going to say, the Titans defense really any good?
The Titans secondary is very bad, and Patrick Mahomes is very good. So
is Tyreek Hill.
He might throw for a lot of yards.
I don't know. Yes. It might just be a very high-scoring game. So, yeah, that is the only interesting game of this week. Chiefs Titans.
That'll be an interesting one, and it's a good exercise for just how valuable Henry is, and you've kind of got elite quarterback versus elite running back.
Yeah.
You know, I guess we'll see who is more valuable to their team.
You know what the argument for the Henry MVP? He's not the most valuable player. But let's say that no other quarterback really grabs the award. You could say that no other running back could do what Henry does. Like if you put Nick Chubb behind that offensive line, like he would do great, but he would get hurt. I don't think he could handle that workload. I don't think any other running back could. So maybe that's the angle to play it on. Yeah. I'd like to see him win.
I wouldn't mind a Henry MVP, like as long as everyone understands that he's not the MVP, like he's not actually the most valuable player. But if his season is just like so insane, we're like, we don't care about the V and MVP, and we're just going to give it to him because he just rushed for 30 touchdowns and 2,400 yards.
The most player.
He's just the most player. He is the most player. He's huge.
Actually, that might be my opinion. That might be straight up what I think. I think it maybe should go to Henry if he rushes for like a stupid amount of yards. And
that's what I'm saying. If he has 2,200 yards and 20 touchdowns, you give it to him, right? It's like no different than like LaDainian Tomlinson. LaDainian Tomlinson's 2006 season is the greatest running back season of all time. If you don't give him MVP, why?
Yeah.
Why?
As long as he also wins Offensive Player of the Year. That's all I'm concerned about. I need to also win my win my $140.
How much did you bet on that? 20?
20 to win 160.
Are you really hurting that bad if you lose out on $20 that you put down how long ago?
Like a couple weeks ago.
You said it was like a long time ago.
I would rather win $100-something than not win $100-something. It's also hilarious because in my betting career, I've laid down like $2,500 worth of bets and I've won almost the exact same. I break perfectly even every single week. It's very
I saw you won like $1.30.
all of this betting just to win like $1.30. But it's fun and I haven't lost. So
I will say this about the Henry thing. If it does get to the point where they want to give Derrick Henry the MVP just based off like most outstanding player, and we know he's not the MVP, we want to give it to him.
Yeah.
Analytics bros will not get that context.
No, they won't.
Will not accept that.
Yep.
They will not understand. They'll be like, he's clearly not the most valuable. It's got to be a quarterback.
It's like, that's kind of the point.
You know.
And they're right. They'll be right if it happens, but at the same time, you just got to let it go and know that it's more fun to give it to Derrick Henry, who just broke every single major rush.
They'll be wrong that everybody doesn't get it.
Yeah.
We know.
We just don't care.
I feel like that's the difference.
We know, but we don't care. It's like, I'm an analytics guy too, and I agree. Like, you just give it to Henry because, again, I've looked at because
I want to.
I would still vote for a quarterback because in the spirit of the award, but I would not be mad if it is Derrick Henry.
If we're going most valuable player, we know it's Lamar Jackson. We know damn well it's Lamar Jackson.
That's the other thing. Does it ever actually go to the most valuable quarterback? No.
That's the thing. I was
the one with like.
I've seen ESPN, Pro Football Focus, and a couple of, I think it was maybe, I don't know who the other one was. Maybe it was NBC, posted like their top 3 MVP candidates, and every single one, it's like Kyler, Stafford, and Brady. Every single one.
Yeah, Lamar's stats are not that good, but it's like I don't think you're throwing to Hollywood Brown, who dropped 3 touchdowns. He's a lot better, a lot better now. So much better now. Still not a super reliable wide receiver 1, and still whenever you see him streaking down, wanting to catch it, you're still like,
you hold your breath a little bit. And
you hold the breath a little bit. It's not like Devontae Adams or something down there.
I think that's like the other thing about the MVP award is because if we're talking about most valuable, then it's not just determined you being the most valuable by yourself. Your circumstances also come into play. If you play for a fantastic team, even if you're really good, even if you're the best, you might not be the most valuable. But if you play for, maybe you aren't the most valuable or you aren't the best, but you play for a team that sucks and needs you more, then you're more valuable. And a lot of times the MVP award doesn't want to take that into account. So I would say that the spirit of the MVP is already dead.
Yeah.
The spirit of the award already
it's a mess.
The spirit of the MVP is dead.
The branding of MVP, it should be very easy. Just give it to like the best player. They should just
that's what
the most outstanding player.
And then people sports fans always do this. They read too much into the word and they start arguing not about the players and how they played, but about the definition of words.
Yeah.
Same thing happens in the NBA. What is who is a super team, who isn't a debate isn't even about the teams. It's just about what the word super team means. And it means nothing. It's a made up word.
I remember you made a video about that, Matt. No,
yes.
So the moral of this segment is we're rebranding the MVP to MOP. Most outstanding player.
Just
MOP.
Best player.
I couldn't even say that with this. Most player.
Anyway, that's.
But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps things up for us. So as I mentioned earlier, we do want you guys to call in for the Halloween episode. Give us, something about your team that you're scared about. We'll affirm your fears or we'll ease your fears. But of course, for Sunday, we are still doing the Stay Hot shout out via our Stay Hotline. So, of course, call in during, your team's playing, they're losing, whatever. Zach Wilson throws 3 picks and you want to call and yell about him. Just call and yell about him. Or if Matt Stafford's going off.
Let's get some NBA takes.
If you want to call in about some NBA takes. 15 to 20 seconds. You go over 20 seconds, we're cutting you off.
Also, Steph Curry update. He's at 33 points right now.
Jesus Christ. Come on.
In the third quarter.
They should have given him the record.
They should have gone for it.
They should have gone for the record.
It was off to such a good start. And now he's only got 33. What a bum.
He had 25 right at the end of the first quarter.
Yes.
Is that right? That's tough.
Yes.
That's so tough. But that wraps things up on our end. As always, tons and tons of content coming your way on all platforms. And until next time, from Corn Boy, Berry Boy, and Lemon Man, Lemon Boy, we'll catch you on the flippy flop.